Well, great welcome. I'm glad you're able to come tonight. You know that this is a time when everybody's just got 10 million things going on. So it's good that you're able to take some time out. By the way, I think all of us, though, have heard from by email, by phone call, by Facebook, private message, you name it. We've been hearing from people, but not just as an announcement of the Minsure Town Hall, but just in general, ever since the notices started going out and the premiums and all of that. So this is something that we've all heard a great deal about, not just here tonight, but also just in general. So, but wanted to give an opportunity, though, for in-face personal time to tell your story, which is really what it's about. Before we get started, though, I did think, though, that I did put the names of everybody who's here, and that maybe, Jim, we could just start with you and go down, and I'd just like to give each of the legislators up here just a couple minutes to say what area they represent and anything else that they want to share a little bit, but just a couple minutes.
Yeah. Well, thanks for being here. I'm Jim Abeler. I'm a senator from Anoka. I was a state rep before that. And we kind of go around the state listening to people's stories, and I mean, they're more like horror stories. They just got through Halloween, so now we pray for redemption on All Saints Day. But I'm eager to hear what you have to say, and as we try to find a way to do something about this. I'm from Anoka.
And Jim, you were also previous chair of the House Health and Human Services Finance
Committee with Mary, and I just want to tell you, if we would have had both the House and Senate, we would not be doing this meeting today. You'd be out doing something else much more enjoyable.
Yes. This does not have to be. This is.
No, it doesn't have to be.
Tama.
My name is Tama Theis. I represent Actually, I was kind of brought into these discussions through my son. He and his wife had a hard time trying to get covered, and they thought they finally were. I think it was a year ago in August, and it took a long time to try, and I was even trying to help them to get them enrolled, and they had gotten cards and everything in August. In January, he went to the doctor, and they're like, "You don't have coverage." And he's like, "Yes, I do. I have cards. I have cards that say I'm covered. And I pay a premium every month." And they're like, "Yeah, you don't have coverage." And so he had to go through a process to finally get coverage. And that was after, so they had been trying, it was like almost a year just to get coverage. And so they thought, yay, we finally did. And then found out they didn't have it. So.
And you've heard many other stories from others.
Very many stories like that as well. So you just don't know how it happens. How can it happen?
Yeah.
Well, hi everyone. I'm Jim Knoblach, State Representative for District 14B, which is where you are today, is the east side of St. Cloud, a couple of townships, Minden and Haven, east of St. Cloud, and most of the north side of St. Cloud between the river, Highway 15, and that area, the south side, north of University Avenue. So I've got Tech High School, at least the current Tech High School, and the university unit. And I'm also chair of what's called the Ways and Means Committee down in the Minnesota House, which is the Budget Committee, and I'm the most experienced freshman they've got, at least for a little bit longer, because I was in for a number of years back in the 90s and 2000s. I decided to not run again in 2006, and went back into the private sector, but then ran again in 2014 and was elected, and I'm running for re-election. And after we've heard, your stories, I have heard a number of stories from people, but I also do have one that said that one person said he'd like to have his story shared with the group, and so when we're done listening to everyone else, I'd like to share his story too.
I'm Jerry Relph. I'm running for state senate for the District 14, which is take Tama and Jim's districts and put them together. That's the district that I encompass. I've lived in the community about 30 years. I'm a former Marine, Vietnam vet. I came to St. Cloud in 1984 and practiced law here for about 20 years. My first wife then passed away, and I took a different tack and started a small business, so Lake Master Lake Maps, for those of you who fish. That was my business. And when John Peterson announced that he wasn't going to seek re-election, I felt that this was a chance for me to put back into the community. So, like Jim, I have several stories that I can share that just show how badly this situation is. And I heard an interesting comment about what Obama was talking about, and he compared things to this cell phone, the Samsung 7, and he said that, well, when something's broken, you fix it, but when you can't fix it, you throw it away. And I'm going, is he saying that we should abandon Obamacare? Well, I think we should. I think the thing's on fire, and we need to do something to correct the situation. And I don't want to run it too far, but when you look at the Affordable Care Act very closely, you realize that it probably was intended to fail, because then they can replace it with a single payer system. And this is where I see things going if we don't do something to reverse it. And if you think things are bad now, welcome to Canada. This is what we're looking
Without
at.
America to go to when you can't get what you want in Canada.
Right.
And I think also, Jerry, as an attorney, if you're going to prosecute this case, you'd have enough evidence, wouldn't you?
Absolutely. This would not be one where there's been criminal or there's been negligence, but there's insufficient evidence and no reasonable prosecutor would go forward.
Okay.
As a reasonable prosecutor, I go forward with this one.
Right. That's good to hear. And so, by the way, I'm Mary Kiffmeyer, and my district includes Big Lake, Elk River, Otsego, Albertville, St. Michael, Hanover, and 14 homes in Dayton. And so, that's a 33, almost, well, it's a 28% increase. It was 12 a couple of years ago. So keep track of my folks. But I have the outlet mall in my district, and I have the wonderful Mississippi River, and lots of transportation. But I was vice chair to Jim's chairmanship in the House Health and Human Services Committee, and so in fighting those battles and seeing what can be done when you have a leadership role and you have the power of the position and to do that. And so now Jim and I are both in the Senate, but we think that we will be working together very well, hopefully with the House in some leadership role. But you know, we've heard all the bad news stories. It's really quite all over the press, and even our own governor said it's not affordable anymore. True words, without a doubt. But there are just a few other things that we were told, just to remember about what this was supposed to do. If you like your plan, you can keep your plan. Anybody found that to be true? Okay. If you like your doctor, you can keep your doctor. You know? Premiums will decrease by $2,500 per family. Yeah. It will bend the cost curve and stop healthcare costs from rising so quickly. Not quite. And every American will be covered. None of these things have proven to be true. Matter of fact, it's gotten worse. And so we've disrupted, especially in Minnesota, which had a really, really good system. And we had other things in place. We did very well. And this totally disrupted it. And it's really sad, because real people are having real hurts and real problems. Some of them have died during this time where they could not get care. And that is a tragedy and really, really sad. So in the end, also, we want to talk about, we have some solutions as well. But first of all, I just want to give you time, and you're going to stay in your chair and just talk about, this is time for us now to listen to you. So some questions like, have the changes helped or hurt you over the past several years? Do you have any specific concerns about open enrollment just for this year? Some of the more recent things, so it's over the years, this year, and then how can we help you? What is it that you see that's the kind of solution you'd like to look at? And I have my little book back here with a couple of people who had already said that they wanted to. Q.
Ken Cruz?
Totally covered.
Ken.
Okay, wonderful. You get to be first.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
And you can stand if you want to.
Ken Cruz has been from Morris to St. Cloud, Hartwell now, and self-employed, but going back about 2 years ago, I had a 21-year-old daughter, had headaches in high school. She thought that was normal. After doctor finally got a diagnosis, it was Arnold-Chiari malformation. And after she got the diagnosis, she was at the Minneapolis Spine. Quality. The neurologist said there's a surgery for it, and he referred her to the neurosurgeon right above, and I can't remember his name, but highly recognized name. He said that, and then the PA at the Minneapolis Spine said that she should get on her own insurance plan with the Affordable Care Act, or I don't know if it was MNsure back then, 2 years ago. It was probably MNsure when it first came out. And she referred to the neurosurgeon. After weeks, he replied back and said that she should continue with physical therapy and medication. And the last page of her medical report said physical therapy didn't work and medication didn't work. It was some narcotic, which we were thankful. Joel Baumgartner with Rejuve tried to get her into the Mayo. The Mayo wouldn't take her. Affordable Care Act. The University of Minnesota wouldn't see her. Fortunately, she's a tough young girl and does very well. Anyway, so in my process of researching Arnold-Chiari, Arnold-Chiari is basically where the spinal column meets the brain, and hers is just a little bit too big, so it causes headaches.
Causes her headaches?
Yeah. So in researching the disease, back when all the conspiracy theorists were talking about it, I ran across those two young ladies who had the same disease, one in California, one in New York, and one had the surgery. She could no longer see her doctor, nor get the medications he's prescribed. And another lady is just basically in medical neverland, kind of like my daughter was. Fortunately, my daughter's a fighter, and she's going on, and she's got a heart condition. She's been to Thailand 3 times. Was instructed once not to go because of the headaches, but she goes, well, if I have a headache or not have a headache, I'm going anyway. And pulling a 4.0 in college with the headaches, but so that's, we're okay there. Our other daughter, who was on the program, because it was cheaper than what her employer could provide.
Oh, well,
What's that?
really?
Yeah. She gets numerous letters, and we probably get, between the 4 kids, 8 to 12 letters a month from MNsure, conflicting things in it, crossing paths. My wife went in. She says, okay. And she says the people that work there are pleasant, but she went in person, 2 hours plus to do it, paid it on the spot, even though she had coverage before, but paid it for whatever the change was. My daughter went in for a doctor's appointment, got the bill saying, oh, you didn't have coverage. My wife made the phone call, and she said, what are you talking about? I wrote you a check on this date. She went after the date. Well, that check was for starting November 1st. And there was also a test, just a simple lab test that was covered under Blue Plus before. She took it, asked both MNsure and the clinic if it was covered. They said yes. Comes back, not covered, So she's looking at $400 extra there. So for a young person on a big paying job, that was a big thing. But probably the biggest frustration on my part, it's not the biggest, but a big one is, my wife spends 15 to 20 hours per month managing that. I mean, years ago, once every few years, you'd meet with different insurance agents, and you would pick a plan, you'd show them your card, done. And this is and you don't know if you're covered or not. And our premiums for just the 2 of us went up from $500 a month to over $1,100 a month. They said you could keep your insurance plan. Well, we decided not to have chemical dependency coverage, or not have, maternity, because we didn't need it anymore. And but now we have maternity, and we have chemical dependency coverage, which after MNsure, I might need it. So kind of one of the things that stirred my coal to come in tonight, was hearing Dayton saying, well, we got this extra money, let's help these people who need help. And that is just the most cleaning up my mind language, or just a stupid idea I could ever imagine. That's good. That is a Band-Aid that will last, 2 or 3 months. And not even a Band-Aid, because it's still at the percentages of what people it's gone up, it won't help. So
Do you have a deductible also with that 1,100?
it was a $7,500 deductible for the two of us. A friend of mine, and it was Jim, when I requested him to come here tonight, he couldn't make it, but he just texted back and he goes, his premium for his wife and 2 kids is going up to $2,000 a month with a $7,500 deductible. Twice his mortgage.
How much was it before?
Didn't ask that question. But ours, went from, we were paying about $500 a month for the two of us to $1,100 a month.
Did you have choices of plans, or was that the only plan?
This, after the insurance, or after the Affordable Care Act?
With the 1,100?
That was the cheapest. My wife didn't get fine print smaller than that. My wife takes care of it. But, so I think that was the.
Well, things can be a hard story, especially when it touches your kids like that. And remembering what it was like before.
Yeah.
You show your card and
You're done.
it's no consolation, but you're not alone in that
Yeah,
experience.
unfortunately.
John and Eva, do you want to just tell us a little about your story?
Oh, where do I start? I'm very angry at what's going on with healthcare all across the board in America. To begin with the Affordable Care Act, there's a lot of things I see about it that I kind of consider unconstitutional, as far as having to buy something, being forced to buy something that you don't even have a choice in anymore. I'm angry because I wish we weren't here to talk about this, because it's happening, and I've seen this coming how many years ago, and how I seen it coming was I used to be on a group plan in the business that I helped run with my mother doing the carpet cleaning, and back then we noticed, even with the group plans and the HSAs and the things that were happening then, we're noticing the deductibles going right through the roof, the costs going way up, the coverages being less, and just basically, to make a point short, is that it's hurting small business. Trying to do this without getting too mad. I'm pretty angry. Basically what's happening now is deductibles are going through the roof. Right now, it's a lot. Everything about the Affordable Care Act, in my opinion, all lies. Telling Obamacare telling us that it's saving us money. It's not. It's costing more money. We're not getting the care. We don't have the choices anymore. I'm kind of seeing this way that we're now being forced into the Affordable Care Act, and then to make the whole system collapse, so to speak. I'm hearing this from other people that you force you into the Affordable Care Act, have it collapse, and go to the single payer. Now my question becomes is, what happens when we all go into a single payer? Is that really going to be any better for all of us? I've been asking my friends, I'm asking you, I would like to ask Congress, the United States, let's solve this problem. I'm tired of the Band-Aids, I'm tired of wasteful spending, I'm tired of people dying because of this. We've had people that we've known and talked to that died because of these changes with healthcare, because they couldn't get the care in time. I've got friends that work down at the Mayo Clinic as doctors, and they're seeing the same thing down there. It's sad, makes me angry, it's disgusting. I guess in a lot of ways I'm for abolishing the act, but my question is, can the Republicans and Democrats come together to make a solution to this problem? Because obviously we've had this problem maybe well before this. Goes way back. Now, my concern is I still work from home. And now with my Blue Cross and Blue Shield plan that I'm on, this last year I just had a baby. I went with the lowest deductible plan because I thought, well, I better cover my butt just to protect myself. Go with the lowest deductible. Yeah, I know I'm going to pay more. I'm accepting of that because goods and services, things cost money. You know, I don't want things given to me for free. So I went with that. I was suggested to go with the lowest plan, lowest deductible. I did that. I paid a little more, trying to be responsible. I also have an HSA plan. I think it's a good idea to have an HSA savings account because then you can be responsible. You can try to forecast, you know, it's just like putting money away for like an IRA or your retirement and tell your money where to go to be responsible. So that if you put the money away in this medical account, you just kind of forget about it and you go to it, use it as you go. And I think it's a great idea, but right now I'm disgusted because with my renewals that I got, basically telling me to go take a hike. With my renewal this year, they went from, basically they told me I can't have my plan anymore. I can't have my $4,500 deductible plan if I wanted it. I was kind of hoping that I could find a higher deductible to bring my costs back down and kind of balance it out. I have money to take care of my baby and all these other things, and now it's like a slap in my face. It's like, how many more jobs can you work? How many more hours can a person work? You know, I talk to my friends and this and that. There's some people working 4 or 5 jobs and really trying, and then their health and sicknesses are far worse than what I am. I mean, I'm happy that I'm lucky that we're healthy, knock on wood so far. But so basically, the deductible now they want. This is what really irritates me. The deductible now is well over 10,100. Maybe it's 300. 10,100. And then the payment goes from, I was at 4,500, so it went up to 10,100. And the payment per month I was paying $558, and now it goes up to well over $902 a month for me and my wife. I'm sitting here going, okay, I have a budget. I try to budget my money because I don't want to be in debt. I don't want to go broke. I want to be able to put food on the table, all those normal things. Or at least, maybe it's not normal for some people, but that's how I do it. So then I sit here going, logically, doing the math, that's at least over a 60% increase. And I'm sitting here going, okay, how is the economy doing? Where am I going to get extra money to pay for this? Then the coverages are less because reading down on the pharmaceuticals that you'll maybe get generic drugs if you were to get sick or whatever. Okay. And then I read on the renewal that if you met your deductible, then the coverages after that are you're maybe covered 60%, not a 100%. So I said, they're going, oh, it's scary. It's very scary. So then I'm sitting there, okay, this is scary. So then on the note that I got from Blue Cross and Blue Shield, after they told me that $900, whatever offsets, whatever the number exactly is, at least $900 or more. After that, it said attention in bold, and then after it read, it said, this is just only an estimate. You won't know your bill or your renewal number until you get your December bill. And I thought, what the heck is this? You know, what are you guys really trying to do? And then it says in there that this is the best time Medica, it's not Blue Cross and Blue Shield, I'm sorry, I was thinking, because Blue Cross and Blue Shield I had before all this, it's Medica. So I thought, well, what in the world are they trying to do? So then Medica tells me that they're basically took my old plan from the $4,500 deductible. Did I confuse any of you so far? If you have questions, interrupt me. So then, with Medica, so you have all this, and it just makes no sense to me. All this So now they're rerouting me to this $10,000 plus deductible plan to change all the terms and everything. And it just blows my mind. It's a work. It's just, I can't believe I'm even talking about this. So go through that, and they basically say, well, we can't help you anymore, and you'll have to go into insurance. Well, now here's the catch. I call my broker, going, you're not going to like what I have to say. I'm not happy about this. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, then he comes to tell me, he says, well, there's not going to be much to do. And then he tells me that, well, good luck getting uninsured, because him as an insurance broker, I can't help you get on that. And I thought, you're an insurance broker. You provide a sales insert. You provide a sale, a service, goods. You're an insurance broker, health insurance broker. Now you're telling me you can't help me get on the insured to help me protect myself, to cover my butt. Be a responsible American, So I'm sitting here going, what in the world is this? What kind of, I kind of wonder, is this healthcare thing kind of like a big Ponzi scheme? Is this a nightmare? I mean, it just blows. So then I thought, okay, he can't help me, well, he's worthless. But then it makes me angry at him. Now, should I be angry at him, or should I get angry with people in Washington? So then, okay, well, great. And then he tells me, well, good luck getting on that, because this year they're limiting the number of people that can get uninsured. They're limiting not just insured, but all health care. All of it. So I'm saying, okay, you're full of good information. You just depressed me even more. Going, it gives you less hope. Now, can you imagine there's somebody like, with illnesses and things that need to be taken care of right away? Can you imagine how much? It's a lot worse. So now I have this attitude where, okay, well, today we tried calling Insure. Can't get through it all. We tried calling my fiance's health partners, because he's got one of the grandfather plans. In fact, I'm told to be quiet about it. They even told us from health partners to be quiet about our grandfather's plan, because we got a good plan. So I thought, okay. So we're getting information from that to figure out if my daughter and I can get on his plan, because we're not exactly married yet. We were planning on it, but we go that way, which is another story. So I sit there going, okay, well, how's that going to work? And then it's the same thing when we called them. He spent half the afternoon, from noon until at least 4:30, to get any customer service rep on the phone. Then he got a rep on there, and the rep's like, well, you got to call the sales line. And then she chatted, and she was able to send them an email with application to fill out. So then we got that, but now we have to call. He's been trying to call back to get the sales side. But they've been busy all day, of course. I mean, it's November 1st, so. So we're trying with that, and then I guess my next step is to go blindly or try to figure out how to do the insure, and kind of losing, like I said, they're limiting the number of people, and you only have 6 days to take insurance. And you got the whole United States, numbers and numbers of the people. How are you going to do this all in such a short time? That's the other problem I don't like about the ACA or healthcare in general, is you got this little time span. And then I remember John telling me, I don't want to take up all your time. I shouldn't take up all your time.
How come you want?
But I remember you were telling me, even with Kendra, when you put her on the government plan, that this is another thing my insurance broker said, is that, you might not even know if you're going to be able to get uninsured, because they don't communicate to you to tell you if you're accepted into the plan or whatnot. And like with Kendra, it took months. It took 3-4 months. And so I don't want that. That's a risk to me, because my daughter's immunizations come up again in January and February. And I'm sitting here going, okay, this kind of scares me, because when I read on the medical bills that I had, this is the kicker. When I read on the medical bills, some of those immunizations are at least between $1,000 to $2,000 a pop. And then you got the pop visit, that's another $300. Now I'm told if you don't have, I've always knew this, if you didn't have insurance, those numbers would be higher. And I thought, oh my God. So I'm pretty worried about winter because we got the beach season coming up. I want to be able to take care of my daughter. It's a headache. And I'm mad because I'm sitting here and having to tell you about this headache. And it's a worry because how am I going to pay for this? Or how am I going to know if I'm going to have insurance? I mean, I just can't, it's just a whirlwind. I've got I'm angry. So,
Just want to mention that on those brokers, we've all recognized very well our broker systems that sold health insurance and a variety of insurances always were. One of the things that we tried to do and amendments that we put in was to enable them to be able to help, that they could do that, and that was rejected by the governor and others as well. So we did try, because they are a great wealth and very knowledgeable and experienced, but we were unable to get that into this system.
and you
at that
got
time.
like vehicle insurance, boat insurance, what do you have?
I mean,
We have brokers.
we all buy insurance off
They
the
have a
phone.
job
Mhm.
that creates jobs, so if you want to create more jobs, and then you can't rely on a computer because you only have a computer with so much space and this and that, and when computers fail, you need people to. But you can explain a little more about, because we kind of feel the same about the health insurance thing.
Well, she's covered up. Excuse me, she covered most of it up.
But explain, like, as a small business too.
But luckily, we haven't had many medical problems, so we don't have any serious medical. My eye doctor, I always was covered, and now I have to pay that bill. But that's the only thing there. But from a small business owner, the way I'm seeing things here, coupled with a huge tax increase on my business last year, 2015, along with these increases in insurance premiums that are coming up here, it's going to make it almost impossible for me to start keep making a profit in my business. I still can for 2017, but this keeps going up. 2018, I'm going to be really worried about how my business is going to make a profit, unless I raise my rates. And right now, I'm thinking a 25% increase might be enough to cover it, but then I could start pricing myself out on the market. I don't know if other businesses are going to be doing the same thing or not. I'm sure they will be. That's from my point of view on that. And my premiums went up from around $900,000 this year. For next year, it'll be $1,800.
That's what my broker said too, after.
And to a $6,500 deductible.
That's what my broker said, after this
Would
year,
you
in
do that
2018,
again?
that it's
900 to 1,000, and then this for this next year, how much?
Yeah, well, right now we're paying $900 to $1,000, and 2017 it'll be $1,800 with a $6,500 deductible for just me and my wife.
I like your deductible in mine. I mean, it's just,
But I've been running business since 1984, and I've never seen anything like this. This is unbelievable. It's going to be real hard to make money starting 2017 here. And then I found out last spring, and I couldn't believe this is incredible to me. And the Democrats were saying that if you employ less than 50 people, you don't have to insure your employees. But I found out you do have to. They just suspended it. You will have to get insurance for your employees, because I got 6 guys working for me. And I couldn't believe I read that, because I read that on Facebook. So I called up my tax accountant out there in Wheat Park. He's got a pretty good sized company out there. And I asked him, "Is this true?" And he goes, "Yes, it is." And I said, well, along with that, I understood what I read, that if we don't give our employees insurance, there'll be a $3,700 fine or $37,000 fine per employee. And I called him up and told him, what I read is incredible. Is it true? And he said, yeah, it's in there. And I said, when's this going to kick in? And he said he didn't know. But I said, can you find out? So he called me back about 2-3 days later and says, I can't find out when it's going to kick in. They totally suspended it, and to their whim, they can kick it in anytime they want. That's all he can say right now on that. And that's crazy. I'll put every small business in the country out of business.
I mean, even with my friends that work in big businesses, I talked to one today, and it ticked me off. Well, I'm sorry, you don't work at a big company where you can get the nice little breaks. And I'm just kind of like, you just wait until maybe things start kicking in that these big companies will be affected. I mean, I think that's maybe down the line, unless maybe they still, maybe you guys are just catering to big businesses or what, but.
And another thing, this will fix about 5-6 problems for the underinsured in this country and stuff. Why do they need a 25,000 page or a 2,500 page healthcare bill to solve that kind of a problem? You know, there's something going on there that's
It's something
not
wrong when
meeting the eye, you know.
Republicans, the other half, can't agree with it. Wouldn't you think that, wait a minute. And then the thing is, like, David now wants to do this thing where you get 25% back. I don't think that's a good idea, because I think it's just a Band-Aid for a temporary thing.
Yep.
I think real solutions need to happen, even if it goes as far as abolishing the whole thing, or maybe abolish part of it. Make it, you gotta come up with something, get people to start talking, throw ideas around, brainstorm, because we're hurting out here, and it's got to stop now.
Thank you very much. Boy, that's another. And what I really hear too is uncertainty, the murkiness, and so much uncertainty. That's for business. Okay, somebody else like to just tell?
Well, I'm just curious to know, and I really don't expect you to know the answer, but if Trump gets elected, you know, one of his first objectives is to abolish Obamacare. So have any of you researched how quickly that can happen, and what in turn will you be able to do to help
We
us
not
out?
only feel replaced, so I took the time for tonight to go and anticipating that might
good.
come up. There are ways to deal with that. And
Is
so
it the
it's not
polarizer?
just one, it's not just the other, it's that you feel you figure out everything. So, but we want to make sure that before we get into ideas like that,
Okay.
that we take the time to hear the issues and the concerns. So somebody else, you wanna?
Well, I'll just say that for someone who, like myself, are a type 1 diabetic, we are, well, actually, when I was looking at the plans on Mincher, I was seeing that there's the category for in a bad year. And that kind of frustrated me, because for diabetics type 1s, they're always a bad year, every single year. And for myself, it went from 1,200 to 4,000, 4,000, 6,350, 6,350 for this next year, 7,150. And our monthly premiums keep going up higher too. And we can't get any assistance from insurance until we pay 100% of our copay. So when I need my supplies, it's $7,150. So come January, I pay $2,500. February, pay $2,500. March, pay $2,500. And then when I finally hit the $7,150, then I get assistance. And I'm strapped already. And where do you go from here? What's next year going to be like? And there's no assistance. I don't make very much money, but
What's your premium on that?
my premium is $500, and I haven't gotten it this year coming, but it's $550 right now. That's a premium, but the copay is $63.50 for this year, 2016. But that's a lot of money, and there's no hope. And there's a lot of people like me out there, and it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. And if I quit my job, I immediately have to pay another $63.50 or $71.50 at a new place. The copay doesn't carry forward to your new position. So you're kind of strapped. staying where you're at, because the copays go with your insurance. So if you got insurance at a company, when you quit, you lose that insurance, you've got to start all over with a copay. And that's frustrating. Almost you can't afford it. I just want to stress that point. I mean, that's something nobody thought about,
Yeah, that's,
you know.
we have somebody new who's come in and want to have an
Oh.
opportunity to talk about your experience with Insure, the struggles, problems, issues.
I'm here to listen.
And we have
I'm here to listen.
you're just wanting to listen. That's perfectly fine. Absolutely.
I'll just say, full disclosure, my husband's a physician, and, you know, how frustrating all this is for him as well. I just want to say that one of the things that's happened, and you might have noticed this, is we've gotten into no private practice anymore. Every practice, he's in private practice, he'll probably be the last one left in town, I'm sure. It gobbles up to these big, huge monopolies. We will have a monopoly here at St. Cloud in very short order. One clinic, no competition, they can do anything they want. And that is another fallout of Obamacare. Is, I mean, if you go down, Mayo owns all of southern Minnesota. You know, and that is one of the fallouts. Your little clinic that you liked your doctor and you enjoyed it and you could go in there and you knew the people, that'll be gone. You'll be a number on a conveyor belt. And that's the thing that bothers me as well. And I see it already happening. I got really sick this summer, went to the urgent care, and got sicker. And that's just a bigger picture thing, not the individual thing. It's just kind of a bigger picture that I'm not sure people really are aware of, but share that.
I did want to say something that's always frustrated me. For insulin, it's been invented way back in the 40s, 50s, and they've been mass producing it ever since, and yet the price just keeps going up and up and up. And for a small little vial, which someone like myself takes up to 10 vials, and they're $150 to $400 a vial. The Africans don't pay, in Africa they don't pay that. They pay very little for that if they have it available. I mean, in other countries, but in America it's sky high. Sky high. And it just keeps going higher and higher. No matter how much they mass produce it, it just keeps going higher. And why?
You know, I found out something about drugs too. I also have diabetes, and I take insulin. But one of my meds had done I go to Target Pharmacy at Crossroads, and they got bought out by CVS. And my prescriptions went up significantly. Why? Because CVS is doing this again. It's like creating a monopoly, and they can say how much they want to charge. So I went over to a lot cheaper. A lot cheaper. So, and
By the way, there's an
that.
app for that.
I know.
Good RX as well.
Yeah.
Really? You can research pricing?
Good RX.
I'm checking it out.
Before I forget to, because it goes through my head so fast. In my new plan, it also says I will also have to pay a copay, ranging from $30 to $60 on top of all this. And then with my experience, this insurance that I had last year, I didn't even meet my deductible. So a lot of that I paid it out of my HSA. Thank God for my HSA. That's all I gotta say. And I wouldn't pass that around that maybe you guys can do something better with the HSA for everybody. Because I called my bank today on the HSA because I'm worried that I'll probably have to go to Insure. Hopefully I have to get something. I hope, or take the penalty. That's the other part about why I don't like ACA is that you don't have the money to pay for it or the penalty, pay for the penalty, they get thrown in jail. So then I kind of asked myself, well, there's going to maybe be a lot of Americans going to jail, then you're going to put us all in jail if you don't have any room in jail.
Well, you get good health care.
Yeah, I just, the common sense.
We probably abolish imprisonment for debt, but it seems like we're trying to bring it back.
Now, one thing to mention, HSAs are good for $3,250, $3,250. But when your co-pays are $7,000, why can't you get up to $7,000 for that
Yeah,
HSA?
good point.
It's stupid. It's pure stupid.
But then I called the bank today with the HSA, and I said, well, I'll probably have to go to insure, and then what do I do? From the tax portion, I called the tax guy too. What do I do? Well, during the account. Well, then I called the bank because I remember these last 2 years, I would get letters from the bank saying, if you don't keep a minimum of $1,000 or something in the account, then we're going to start fining you for fees for the account. If I called it back, they had always waived the fee for me. Well, and I was making sure doing my best to keep money in there. And since I was looking for a long time, they waived it, whatever. But they said right now what I need to do, then I would have to deplete the account. I said, well, then by depleting the account, I'm probably going to go below $500 or $1,000. Then like, well, you just keep depleting it. Then I asked her, I go, are there any insured plans with the HSA, or how would that work? She had no clue about it yet. She goes, that's a great question. And she couldn't answer it, of course. And then I asked her, well, can I keep my HSA account, or just does it earn interest? And she says, yeah, it earns interest, so I could even sit on the money, but then you'll probably have medical expenses anyway, so.
Thank you, Eva. We're going to go to some of the other folks now that have written us, emailed us, or done something that we want to give them a voice as well, and they've asked us similar to what some of you have done. And so, Jim, you had some that you wanted to share.
Well, yeah, I'll just quickly go through one I've got, and then I do want to, unless people have other emails here, if I want to get into talking about, why this has happened and some things I think you should do. But yeah, in my particular case, I have a person who wrote me an email who said he's on Medicare, but his wife is 3.5 years younger, so she has to get her own insurance. They travel to Arizona each winter. They were paying a premium of $446 per month with a $3,000 deductible. When they looked at signing up this year, they couldn't find, their current provider wouldn't cover someone who was in 2 different states. They'd only be covered if they stayed in Minnesota, which wasn't useful for them. So they had to go out and find different coverage. And when it was all said and done, the new coverage they had that covered them when they were in Arizona, there's only one plan available, was $857 a month with a $6,400 deductible. So their deductible more than doubled and their premium went up 77%. So they would pay $16,833 before they actually got any benefit at all out of their policy if they did have a claim of some kind. And they, I've been kind of corresponding with this guy over the last couple of days. They actually had made plans to go to Arizona over the last few days. So he was literally in a hotel in Omaha where they had set up a VPN connection for his computer so that he could wake up in the middle of the night at 4 a.m. and access or attempt to access the MNsure website so that he could try to make sure that he got in line and got his wife's health insurance. And in his case, I'm not sure if I would say it's a happy ending, but I got an email from him today that he was actually able to get it. But what I wanted to talk about is just, that's just one more example of, there are all these, lots of individual cases where, here you've got someone who, he's on Medicare, but his wife is younger and needs to get insurance. They've been happy with their insurance plan, but now because they travel south, all of a sudden they have far fewer choices in terms of insurance they can get. In fact, they only have one choice, and so now their premium's gone up 77% and their deductibles, more than doubled. But just, I don't, so that was their case. I don't know if anyone else has another issue or another example up here that you guys wanted to share. Otherwise, I wanted to address Neva and a few other things.
I do have one that I'd like to share. I've been talking to a constituent who's an insurance agent, and she's got several clients that are all over the state, and one of them is a farm family by Ada, and right now they're at $3,100 a month, and I don't even know what their deductible is, but they're not close
Their
enough.
premium?
Their premium. And we're hearing this from a couple other farmers, farm families that their premiums are really going up. But they're close to retirement, but not close enough. So they're like, well, what do we do? And her question is, how do I counsel my clients on what to do? And I said, I don't know what to tell you. Because, I can't tell, you can't tell them to drop their insurance and just save a ton of money in case something happens. Because if it's catastrophic, then there goes the family farm. So I think insurance agents are feeling frustrated in that respect too, is what do we tell our people what to do? And she said, quite frankly, and this is part of the issue too, is they don't get paid to do this. She's like, I get paid $37,000 a year to do this, and I can't tell you how many hours I have into it. And she said, I'm concerned for my folks, and I don't know what to do. So she's getting out of it. She's like, I can't do this anymore, and we're hearing that too. We've got a friend who's going to move to Tennessee. He's like, it's just, this is just getting to be too much, can't do it. And so I think it's going to be a very different situation when we finally do kind of figure out what we're going to do.
Well,
People don't want to do it.
I want to just add, there is, on MNsure this year, there's a section called advisors. You can get an advisor. I tried to get an advisor. And I signed up. I called the number for St. Cloud advisors, and they are booked till middle of November. So if you wanted to get assistance to get on these early plans that are going to fill up, which they warn you they're going to fill up, you can't get an advisor because they're already booked. There was only one office here in St. Cloud that will help in Wade Park, and I said, well, I can only leave a telephone number. Well, we'll try to call you back, but you can't do anything unless we set up an appointment and schedule you to. Right now they're booked till end of November. So if you want assistance from MNsure, you're out of luck.
Oh, Jimmy, you had some other things?
Well, sure. I just, firstly, this is obviously a really huge problem for a significant number of people. And I'm not a big fan of special sessions, but I think the governor, who is the only person who has the power to call us back, is going to have to call us back for a special session to deal with this, sometime shortly after the election. What everyone's going to come up with as an answer, I don't know. The governor's answer to take $313 million of the surplus and throw it at this, to me is, we may have to spend some money on this, but that's not a permanent solution to the problem. That's a one-year Band-Aid at best. And, if we're going to do something, we need to try to fix it as best as we can permanently. The gentleman back there mentioned the caps, and I think people probably know this, but basically when the insurance commissioner negotiated with the insurance companies this year, and these are all technically non-profit companies. We don't allow for-profit companies to sell insurance in Minnesota. Blue Cross, Health Partners, these sorts of firms are technically non-profit firms. They're really big, some of them, but they are technically non-profit firms. They've lost a lot of money on MNsure clients over the last few years. And so they basically said, well, even if we're going to get these big premium increases, we don't want to be stuck losing a lot of money again. So we want to cap the number of people we're required to take. So we've got some sort of potential limit on our losses if we have yet another bad year with this group of people we're insuring. And particularly around here in Stearns County and Benton County, Blue Cross is pulling out. And so there are going to be more people that want insurance than there are insurance policies available. In fact, it's just, how much more stupid can the government get? We're going to make it illegal for you to not have insurance, but then there's going to be not enough insurance policies out there for everyone to get one. So, no matter how much you want to pay, you're not going to be able to get insurance in some cases, the way the system is designed at the moment. And so I guess, firstly, I would say if you can, try to get onto the MNsure website or work with someone to get signed up for something now. Just, you'd at least sleep a little bit better at night. And I suspect that, a month from now, we're going to at least know that there's a special session coming up and we're going to be doing some things. What that is, there's a lot of different things we can talk about. But the other thing I wanted to talk about a little bit, and Jim in particular, you're going to maybe fill in after I talk about this, because Jim has more knowledge of healthcare than I do. But I felt it might be useful for you to understand, what exactly happened that you're in this situation. And as best as I can describe it, we had 5 years ago probably the best health insurance system here in the United States. Only 8% of the people in our state did not have health insurance, and the great majority of those people could have had it if they showed up at the county courthouse and applied to get Minnesota Care or medical assistance or some public program like that they were eligible for. They just, didn't need insurance at that point and hadn't made the effort to go get it. The small percentage that wasn't part of that tended to be young people, particularly young men that when you're in your 20s, you feel you're bulletproof, you don't need insurance, you don't have a whole lot of assets to protect anyway in most cases, so they just went without it. And what we did in this state is we had something that was a national model called MCHA, the Minnesota Comprehensive Health Association, which was a risk pool where if you couldn't get insurance from anyone, you couldn't find anyone to sell you insurance because you had had cancer once upon a time, or you had some other pre-existing condition or problem, you could go to MCHA and get insurance. And you'd probably pay 20%, 25% more than the going rate for insurance, but you would be able to get insurance through them. And then there was a special tax that basically subsidized this pool of people because even with that higher premium, it wasn't enough to pay for all their health insurance costs. So there was an extra tax that basically put enough money into the system that the health insurance companies were comfortable paying for these people's health care because it subsidized it enough to cover them. Well, when the Democrats had control in 2013 and 14 of the Minnesota legislature, and Obamacare had come into play shortly before that, they scrapped that pool. They adopted this new MNsure system, and all those people that were in that pool being covered, and these are by definition, older, sicker people, got basically thrown into the private health care market. So now they're in the same pool that you are in, Neva, and other people are in that are trying to get health insurance. And so all of a sudden that group of individuals out there that aren't with a big company or aren't on a public program, that pool of people is a lot more costly because you have all these other new people come in. And then in addition, with Obamacare and MNsure, they added a whole bunch of other mandates that were talked about in terms of chemical dependency coverage for everyone and pregnancy coverage for everyone and other things other mandates that added cost. So now that's kind of where you are is these are nonprofit healthcare companies in theory. They're very big companies, but suddenly you're in the pool with all these other sick people that were being taken care of before. And so that's fundamentally why your health insurance premiums are skyrocketing is these health insurance companies are all of a sudden saying, wow, we're losing a lot of money on these people. We got to raise our rates. And, you may not be sick, but they're, as sick as these people. But collectively, as this pool goes, you're being treated as part of this whole pool. On average, everyone's just a whole bunch sicker and more expensive to cover. And I guess I'd maybe defer to Jim to fill in a little bit more beyond that.
And before I get to that, John, I just was looking out for the Obamacare laws. Employers over 50 have had delays until I think this year to do this mandatory coverage of baseline. Under 50, there's no plan for that, just to make you feel better.
I sure hope so.
No, but I just looked that up. They're just exempt, and so some companies are at 45. They're never going to become 50. That's FTEs, it's not bodies. So you can go home with one positive thing in your mind. Well, Jim said it pretty well. It used to be like 45% buying regular insurance in Minnesota. The laws we passed that cover various mandates and so on apply to those groups. The companies that have their own insurance, like Cargill and 3M, the ERISA plans, are federally run, and they can do what they want, and we can't control them at all. And they've been getting bigger. Medicaid's been getting bigger. Medicare is kind of stable. And so that 45% is down to 20 that we can use all our state operations on to make sure that they're quality or whatever oversight. And 5% of that slice is the individual market. And as Jim said, 30,000 people or so in MCHA spent $260 or $270 million a year to cover their particular conditions. And it never got above 20%, just so you know. And like you said. And so it was a pretty good deal. And so all the health plans was 45% chipped in, a couple of percent to raise $160 million. The people paid about $100 million in premium, and it kind of worked. And so if you couldn't get this, at least you had good coverage. It was a $1,000 deductible, 80/20. 80/20, how about that? And you paid 20% more. People would kill for that plan now. Anyway, and so the Affordable Care Act made us get rid of that. And I'm still convinced the commissioner didn't fight very hard to keep it. It was another Minnesota miracle. It actually worked. And independent doctors were covered. And so two things have happened, and I'm going to be real brief. We've shrunk the number of health plans and shrunk the numbers of providers, which actually raises rates and squishes out the individual ones who had the cheers kind of clinic. They go, hey, how you doing? And so those are fewer and far between at Sanford and all the rest. Anyway, and so there is some hope about what you might do, and we'll maybe talk about that. I also want to discuss the governor's plan. I'm the guy from out of town, so I can describe it. You can be mad at me. I'll leave. You won't know who I was. You can't vote against me anyway. But anyway, but you should know what he's proposing, just so you know you can judge it or not. Anyway, and so the Senate Republicans had a press conference, and the House Republicans have had numerous discussions about this. There's not enough competition between health plans. We need more ways. What if we had buying a plan that you like? At this point, only 20% are run by Minnesota law anyway, so really does it matter? What if you could just buy a crop? What if you could have for-profit HMOs from that? Let's give it a shot. What if your farmers could make a group? And they can do it now, but it's really hard, and they make it impossible. Now these co-ops, like MediShare and some of the other faith-based co-ops, they're starving them out. They were 22, they're down to 4 of them because they made the federal laws so tough. That was a real answer. If you can abide by the faith standards and get screened in, MediShare is a bargain.
How much is it?
Like we had it for our family of 4, like $450 for a $10,000 contribution. It's not insurance, but it's a co-op, and then they send you stuff. Pray for Mike, who's spending your money, and they don't say about Mike much, just that Mike needs your help, and so it's a co-op. Anyway, so that's an option for you. Anyway, and so at the heart of all this pressure on the individual market to try to rescue it, and that's what the MCHA, Minnesota Comprehensive Health Association, was about. And so right now in your plans, I don't know how many you actually spend a fair amount of money, sir, but maybe you don't. And so I don't know what you had before, but if you have somebody who's spending $300,000 and somebody's spending $200, that person's getting skewed. And so reinsurance would be like at a certain number, like at $100,000. Your insurance doesn't cover that anymore. That's a different pot of money. That's this other pot. So if the insurance company knew they had to cover 0 to 100,000, you wouldn't have to worry about the $300,000 guy. That increment above the 100,000 or wherever they cut it off would be considered reinsurance. And maybe we decide we're going to help pay for that. It used to be the health plans all paid for it, 45%, we're down to 20%. We can't make ERISA people do anything. So how do you pay for it is a question. And maybe it's a public good and we would decide we would pay for it out of the general fund, or there'd be some other way to pay for that. But if the reinsurance went away when the Obamacare Act got rid of that MCHA thing. And that's what happened to all those people who landed in your little tiny market. Anyway, so competition, reinsurance, would make, those two things would make a huge difference. And then not to mention that these consolidation of providers, if all the orthopedists in St. Cloud are in one group, well, who's going to compete with pricing? Just how much do you want to charge? You know, and so that's on the cost side. But remember, in the individual market, in the group markets and in the regular market, the trend is a couple of percent. So even the consolidated orthopedists and all that aren't to blame for this. This is what we talked about. Anyway, so I will now give you the governor's plan, which I am now just reciting on his behalf, so don't throw things at me. But anyway, but also, the people in this 5% group are you. They are the members of the Rotary. They own a hardware store. They have a business on their own. These are entrepreneurs, the people who pay taxes, who when you go there say, yeah, yeah. These are the Main Street folks and farmers and people like that, the people who work for them. So there are a different class of people than what you're usually worrying about. They're down and out, and we need to help this person with a terrible history. And this is now the core of our town, and they didn't do anything wrong. And so for that reason, maybe it would be all right to help them. The governor's plan is this, and actually I have to go pretty soon after that, which might be handy. But anyway, so what's the idea and how are you going to pay for it? The idea is this, that people's premiums have gone up. The governor's idea, yeah, is that they've gone up 50 to 67%, and they lied. Some are 100%. Some of you have said that. But anyway, so his idea is to pay, if you don't have any, you don't get any venture tax credits, that those people who don't get tax credits would get 25% of their premiums covered in a rebate. A 1-year plan, a patch, but it's kind of an emergency so you don't get crushed. That's the thought. And the detail about that, which is interesting, there's bronze, silver, gold, and platinum plans. So they're going to take 25% of your age group for the second lowest cost silver. So if you have a bronze plan, you're paying 60%. So they might pay 35% of yours, of the entire premium, not just the increase. So that would get you back down to about close to where you were, at least maybe 20% more. Anyway, so that's the proposal, and it would go to anybody who doesn't get a MNsure tax credit. If you should have got one on MNsure and you didn't go there, you still get the tax credit. And there'll be some way to, that's the thing, and the insurance companies in the proposal would collect that. So you would pay the 75% or 70% of your premium to them, and they would somehow do the math. And the total cost of that, they estimate, is $300-something million. Now it turns out by coincidence, there's some free money out there, free. And so there's a surplus. And so every December 1st, Jim can talk more about how this works. If there's money out there that's a surplus until we get the budget reserve up to some number that he knows, a third of the surplus goes into the budget reserve. So this money is just waiting out there to be stuck into the reserve. And so it's kind of a
$2 billion right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, 1.8.
Sitting in cash reserves.
Yeah. Anyway, so rather than put this money into the reserve, then we would take care of this emergency situation. That's the governor's proposal. We were briefed on it yesterday. So that's all I got.
Well, I think there are a few questions about that, which is, how did the governor get to the $313 million? We are used to having fiscal notes. In other words, where's the fiscal note, Governor? How do you know it's that much? Because we've been told other things before, and then things change, and they generally go up. And so there is no fiscal note that we know about, and the governor doesn't seem to be releasing. Where did you get this calculation, or are you just using this number and then back creating to what you want accomplished so you can talk about things? Has the federal government yet confirmed that your proposal is legal? In other words, will Obamacare let you do that? Remember, we're under now a federal thing. And so, have you received confirmation from the IRS that rebates will not be considered imputed income and therefore not subject to
all
federal...
those little details.
I know, just a killjoy. But you know, when we're legislators, this is our job. It's real stuff. And you gotta, Jim's chair Ways and Means. He's the guy that all this stuff has to be the way and the means. But then there's also policy. Can you even do it to begin with? Have the affected insurers agreed to issue rebates? You know, they've got paperwork, they've got stuff they got to do, they've got more record keeping. And this thing wasn't easy to begin with. Now, you're gonna manage the same people who did MNsure and the IT and you can't get them. Now they're gonna do this complicated thing. We have questions about that. How are customers audited to make sure that they're really eligible for rebates? We've heard many, many stories of people who's supposed to be on, shouldn't be on. How do you go back? How do you assign a rebate amount? How do you calculate that? Real things that will have to be done. It's not that simple. And so, how are you going to accomplish all that? And is the governor and his administration committed to restoring the individual health insurance? Is this just a one-time thing, but Governor, that's all of this, and then it's only one time, and it doesn't do anything for the future. So
let me cover that just before I go.
Go ahead.
This is absolutely a one-time proposal, and the advantage, I can just, we chatted for an hour yesterday with the governor's finance commissioner. We know with and then Fran, yeah. Anyway, so this came on us all of a sudden. Actually, the governor's office knew about this a long time ago, but we didn't know, and so some of us are pretty ticked about that. And then Blue Cross was going, and they knew that. They didn't tell us. They didn't tell Jim.
Right, yeah, no, that's...
You might have wanted to know that, you know? And that's, like, really you're keeping secrets, and now at the end, that all lands on you. So let me give you the optimistic thing. So if this would go forward, at least people would be spared, like, horrible harm for the year. But then the agreement's going to be we're going to work out some details ahead of time, or at least in the session come up with a better plan that maybe involves reinsurance and some restructuring, more market efforts. That's what we're banking on. That was these comments. This is from the Senate that we helped put together. That was a question. But anyway, so there's a great deal of pressure on both sides to have to work together to get something done by the end of May when session is over. Because if they don't, then 2018 is going to be worse. And so we buy some time. I'm defending the governor's plan since I'm leaving now. But I think there's some merit to it, or some other version. But so you buy some time, require collaboration to actually get after some of these issues, and maybe there's a better way. I'm very frustrated, though, as a guy who's a collaborator, that they have dismissed all of our ideas. I have quotes I wrote in 2013 and 14 that I could have said today about the individual market. So anyway, God bless you all. I have to go. My wife has an errand for me up here.
and the store's closed.
Oh, you're up in St. Cloud. Can you go? Like, okay. Thanks for coming. So I'm going to support you locally. And getting them to back to St. Paul would be good for all of us.
Hey, thanks.
You know, one thing that is... I appreciate that, because no doubt about it...
they need your help.
Yeah. That...
Tell your friends.
Yeah, thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
That Jim spent 16 years on Health and Human Services Committee, and then later, then that next 17th and 18th year, he happened to be in the majority and chair of the committee. But he said he felt like he spent 16 years studying for the exam and to be there. And so the exam continues as now he's serving as for the Senate. But there are some things that MCHA is a big deal. I think Jim just did a great explanation of, yeah, stuff cookies in your pocket, Jim. There's extra.
Well, Jim, I got to tell you, 313 million. The one thing that's for sure is it's not 313 million. Yeah. I mean, from what we can see of what they did is they just looked at basically how much money was on the bottom line at the end of the fiscal year, June 30th. They added up how much extra tax money came in since then over and above what their projections were.
Oh, right.
But they didn't look at where expenses were since June 30th, 2016, and whether those were more or less than they expected. So, I mean, it is just kind of a made-up number at this point.
Yes.
And which is going to, no matter what happens, it's going to have to be
right. Yeah.
Because you cannot, there's something might say to do that. But there are some things that we can do. And so, we've mentioned some of them. And so the goal we want to do is there may be a special session, right, maybe to do something on the immediate. But our concern is you take that pressure off, and then you don't get to some of the long-term sustainable things. And so our goal is to try and get some of these things put into that as well. And that's going to be our really big challenge, because the pain is real. Ever caught between your very real hurt, your very real needs, what we can do about that. But I think if you recognize, we've also got to be conscientious about long-term and the 2018 bills you'll get at the end of 17. And so we need your support so that as we go through this, that you understand we're not being difficult, you might say. We're being productive, not just for short-term, but we also want a long-term picture. And so that's kind of the challenges of working towards that, and at the same time trying to get that farther. But several things that Jim has mentioned and Jim has mentioned are part of that. But MSHA, the high-risk pool tax deduction for health insurance premiums, all those things still cost money, though. You do a tax deduction, somewhere the revenue has to outweigh that deduction. Entities other than employers to offer group health insurance, Minnesota Farm Bureau can be a structure, Farmers Union, NFIB, there are fraternal organizations, the Lutheran Brotherhood, the Catholic Charities, there are different ones like that that can become umbrellas and help to do that. But the big thing, like what Jim mentioned, though, is getting those extremely high-risk people out of the individual market so that it can function again in a more normal sort of way, and those kinds of groups then can help with a larger purchasing. Many times you're just alone, by yourself, trying to purchase, really individual. But if you can pool your resources together with a bunch of folks like you through a fraternal association, an organization like agriculture, some of those things, you can sometimes get a lot better opportunity. But we got to allow it. Isn't that crazy? We even have to say, yes, you can. I mean, what happened in America? And one other thing I thought was really neat was that independent doctors and hospitals will all be considered in-network as long as they met the network qualifications. But right now they're being shut out from any of these systems, and they feel it, you feel it, and it hinders your choice and your expansion of choices. And then also what happens is more and more of the independents just go away. And you feel the squeeze as a small business as well. So there's some really good things that we can do. I appreciate, I've taken the notes here, and I know we all will. And by the way, on the federal level, some of these same kinds of proposals are being proposed as well by a presidential candidate as well, in a similar vein in regards to what you had mentioned before. If we undo Obamacare, what do we do? Well, first of all, Minnesota is then freed up to do the things that we did before really well, and then focus on the 8% uninsureds and what are things we can do to help them. What are we going to do about that? So there are options also on the federal level, but if you repeal Obamacare, that does release Minnesota back into being able to do what they did really well before. But no doubt the market is extremely disrupted and wingled around, and those things don't magically just get straightened out. Just like the first year of Obamacare, you didn't feel too much pain. It took these year upon years for the effect. We aren't done yet as well, and unless something really happens, that's going to be an issue. So just to let you know, there are some, I have a sheet here, you can have it, I just have one, but you're welcome to look at it or go get it.
And I guess let me just say, from my perspective, I'll let Tama and Jerry jump into it. This is a very big problem. We're really resolved to get back into session and do something about it. I guess I think it is going to cost some money, but I guess I don't like the idea of just, even though it would provide, some immediate relief for all of you, to just say we're going to take $313 million or whatever the number is and throw this money at the problem now to help people for this 1 year, but then not do anything to fix the problem for the following year, doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, sometimes with the legislature you kind of need to have the pressure on to actually get the problem solved, and so I think we need to, and we're not going to have such a brilliant solution that it's going to forever fix the problem, whatever we do this year, say a special session in a month. But we need to do more than just throw some money at it for this year. We need to make a start of doing some other long-term changes that'll help things for next year. And you know, there will be other ideas that come up. Of course, a lot of it depends on what happens at the federal level. We, as state legislators, can only do so much because, you know, we have to live underneath the prevailing law of Obamacare and the requirements that are there. But, you know, there are some things we can do. And, you know, one other idea, I was talking to some people that I will throw out that, you know, I think, you know, would have the possibility of helping some is that we are one of the few states that don't allow for-profit companies to sell health insurance in our state. And oddly enough, the biggest for-profit health insurance company in the country, United Healthcare, is actually headquartered in the Twin Cities. Well, you know, why not allow them to sell their health insurance here? I mean, it would give some additional choices to people. You know, when you've got more competition, it usually drives down the price. If you don't like their product, no one's making you buy it. I mean, but it would be one more, you know, choice that people would have. And so, you know, I think, you know, let's get as many choices out there as we can. So let's let those companies get into it too.
And this is something that we all are very passionate about. It's been kind of difficult to find some solutions when you're not being heard. And I came in 13, 14, and last year I sit on the Commerce Committee, and we had a gentleman testify about what was happening bad with Minsure and the fact that he and his wife had I'm getting on Minsure, you know, to have some health insurance that was affordable. And so they dropped their private, and shortly after his wife got cancer. And quite frankly, it was absolutely they thought she was insured. She'd go in for treatment. They're like, you're not insured. They wouldn't treat her, and she was in 2 years. And what was really hard to see is that one of the staff, a wonderful young man, he's called the committee administrator, actually had to walk out in tears. And later I went to see him and I said, hey, are you doing okay? He goes, he was so mad. Now these are the people who are really just, they worked on it and they're ticked at the way it happened. And he was so mad, and he said, we told them this would happen. And it did. And they still don't listen. And that is so hard to take. But I want you to know that there are so many passionate people, caring people, who really are trying to fix this. I know Mary's probably spent a lot of time. I know Jim did. I know Jim spent a lot of time. And, you know, it's going to take us a while to do it, but we really do use your stories. We really do take what you tell us to heart. And it's like Jim said, it's not going to happen bang, unfortunately. And, you know, and it was really hard because there wasn't a lot of advice taken. And so it's going to take us a while to get to a point where we can get some real solutions. But it really is horrible.
And just to mention too, that sometimes you feel this pain and will go ahead to, and it's not, quote, single payer, is government run healthcare. So take a look at the VA. How is that working out for our veterans? We hear from them. And sadly, we have a VA hospital right here in St. Cloud. But I want to tell you, I have veterans all over in Sherburne County, and we work with them, we talk with them, and somewhat similar experiences with the paperwork and things in, and they thought they were having it, they had scheduled it, and it was supposed to be covered, and it's not, and they go back and they call again and talk to our veteran service officer. So that government-run kind of a thing, well, look about Minsure. How well has that worked out? Can you imagine all government and only government? Okay, so that, when you think of that as painful as it is, that is some kind of a solution, that is a non-solution, because it can get worse. So fortunately, at least we're in a situation right now, and you being vocal about it helps us, because when we go into committees, when we talk to the press, when we work on these things, your heard and your heartfelt comments hit us very hard, plus all the others who have texted and emailed and continued us to as well. So we will do our absolute very best for you. Eva?
It's not even just the government plan, even in the private plans. I spend hours on the phone, even at the hospital, going, hello, I'm calling on the plan. Am I going to be covered for this procedure? I've had procedures done last year where I just said, screw it. I might have to pay it on the phone because I couldn't get anywhere with the customer service rep on there. I mean, it's terrible. Even on the private side, it is terrible getting any service. You pay for a service, but then when it comes to getting the service, and then there's all these fine prints, you know, are you going to be covered or aren't you going to be covered? How much is it going to cost? Because I like to know going into a doctor, okay, I respect you, you have a practice, you know, pay you. Yeah, it just...
Really just hope a lot of people woke up and work for the right people next.
Okay. Well, anything else?
Did you have something, Sue?
Well, you answered it. My question was, how much can we fix MNsure without fixing Obamacare? And I think Mary kind of answered that. I mean, you know, seems to me there's a lot of issues with Obamacare, the mandates, affordable care, all those things sort of press down on us here in Minnesota. So
Yeah, I mean, there's
I'm
some
trying-
things we
there's
can do,
something-
but there's a lot of things we can't. Yeah.
That's where the advantage of repealing it totally releases Minnesota in many ways to be more a master of our own destiny to our own Minnesota people. And we're an innovative and a creative, hardworking kind of people. We still remember that. And by the way, even under the old system, the not being able to have insurance companies that are for-profit sell in Minnesota, that would have helped that 8% and some of that competition and other kinds of plans. The HSAs are an issue because Obamacare disrupted the whole HSA, which was just getting going, and it's a really excellent way to go with it. But they also have put limits on HSAs and some of that as well. We can get back to doing HSAs. We can get our brokers back, who are really knowledgeable and very helpful, who were in this business before. We can do things like that are going to be substantially helpful. But we tried to do that before to take care of the 8%. That was part of the thing, and that was rejected and refused even before. So now we have this situation. These things will be borderline helpful, but don't you want to just do everything you can to help? Because if Obamacare does stay in place, no matter what, you should still do those things that will be helpful. But if enough pressure is placed upon your federal candidates, we're in the election process right now, but after the election, just as much, that public pressure and that outcry. The problem is what kind of solution will be applied. And that is going to be determined in large part by this election.
So vote Trump. Thank you for taking your time to inform us. I think it was really interesting. It's probably the last thing we really had time to do in the days leading up to the election. So thank you. It's really
Thank
good.
you very much, Sue.
Well, thanks for coming, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.